Turmoil at Spokane's largest museum tonight has left it without a director. And even more troubling, a new survey shows 80% of people in Spokane couldn't locate the Museum of Arts and Culture on a map. The MAC has been a mainstay in Browne's Addition for decades. Thousands of school kids from around the area have toured its halls. But now it's at a crossroads. The state slashed funding, its executive director was fired after just 8 months on the job, and now the museum's board is receiving intense criticism for the way the firing was handled.
And it all equals a big mess for a place that doesn't want to become history itself. In an interview that I had exclusively with Forrest Rogers, I had a chance to talk to him, and he says he just wants his job back.
Forrest Rogers was lured away from his very successful museum in Bend, Oregon to boost attendance at the MAC in light of state funding cuts and dwindling community support.
The funding is really one of the most essential and critical challenges that the MAC faces. I knew that coming into the museum, and I felt that we had a good plan for moving forward. The other challenge that I didn't anticipate was the fact that the MAC's attendance and membership is unacceptably low.
Now, Rogers, who moved to Spokane with his wife and 3 children just 9 months ago, finds himself without a job and very little explanation to why he was fired.
The disappointing aspect of my alleged termination is the fact that the board never had a substantive conversation about how we move forward in an environment when we know that state funding is going to decline or disappear. I believed and had recommended to our executive committee that we begin a process of reducing our dependence on state funding and essentially becoming a contractor to the state.
The controversy of Rogers' firing began in April when Rogers' lawyers say the executive committee of the MAC board violated its own rules by terminating Rogers without conducting a full vote of the board. But the full MAC board upheld the firing on May 2nd in a 12-7 vote. The board has never said publicly why it fired Rogers, and that set off a volcano of criticism.
As long as they kept the doors open, we were fine with that.
Nima Motahari is a huge supporter of the MAC and an outspoken critic of the board. He's currently spearheading a campaign to oust the board and get Forrest Rogers his job back. Motahari says the full board really isn't to blame for Rogers' firing.
It is a personality issue. I think it is a character issue. I think it's a direction issue. It's a variety of things. The problem with it is that those issues are existing between very few people on the executive board and Forrest.
While Motahari wouldn't elaborate on who those few board members are, Forrest Rogers says this isn't about personality conflicts. It's about getting the MAC on track. And to do that, the museum needs to focus more on the history of our region.
When you came to Spokane, you had to learn about this community. Why is it the way it is? How did people come here? What is the history here? What drove the economy of the region? What cultures are here? What ethnic groups are here? And the MAC is the place that should be telling that story day in and day out. And I think that that's something that, from a marketing perspective, we didn't talk about.
Well, KXLY4 News reached out to the MAC's executive board for comment, but our emails and phone calls were not returned. Meantime, Rogers' attorney sent a letter to the board in May arguing that he remains the executive director because the termination was conducted illegally.
And his attorney also said Rogers would file a tort claim for more than $750,000 if that termination was in fact upheld. When I asked Forrest Rogers what he really wants, he said he just wants his job back and he wants to do what he was hired for. That's set the MAC in a new direction. There is a Board of Trustees committee meeting tomorrow at noon at the MAC in the Gilkey Community Room, and the public is welcome, and they are expecting quite a turnout.
You keep us updated on this,
I will.
I'm sure. Thanks a lot, Mike.